coming through. All right. Hello, everybody. This is the REI Rocks review, and look at all these people we have joining us here today. But it's 11 a.m. Eastern on a Friday. We're always here. But the exciting thing is, just like you saw in the background there briefly, is the summit is coming up super duper soon. It's next Wednesday, and that's what we're here to talk about. But before we get too excited with that, first of all, let's start with Jason. Jason, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well, Dan. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I like you're playing around with the background. That's exciting stuff. But Angel, our other main host, and the person who it was really her brainchild, right? The whole REI Rock summits and all that sort of thing, right? So she's in Houston. Do you want to say let people know
Yeah,
what's going on?
what is the event? A hero event or something like that?
Yeah, I think
In
that's it.
Mai's event, she's going to be on a panel tomorrow. So she's
Mhm.
been down there all week, doing her conference thing. So
Right.
I
The
got to stay
price.
home with the kids and do numbers.
Well, that works too. At least you don't have to constantly recharge from talking to too many people at once. But we've got some special guests today. Let's start out with Matt Kontoff. Matt, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good.
Excellent, excellent. And you're with Red Wing Capital. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself to everybody. Everybody knows Jason because he's one of the co-hosts of the REI Rocks Review. So, do you want to introduce yourself
Sure.
to everybody in the camera over there?
Sure, you bet. I'm Matt Kontoff, principal at Red Wing Capital. We invest in multifamily properties and syndications, and I have some Airbnb properties. And right now, my main focus is building a hotel in Bali, Indonesia. I've had people say Bali as in Indonesia, and I'm like, is there another one? But that's what we're doing. So good to be here.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's definitely the most famous one. I can think of two others, but they're not in English. So, like, there's a Bali that's part of Danshui in Taipei, but there's also I think the Philippines also has one, even though there are other spots that are bigger destinations there. But Arturo, how you doing today?
Doing great. So I'm Arturo with RA Multifamily Investments. We typically focus on multifamily real estate, and it's my wife and I that partner up with other partners as well. And yeah, that's kind of what we do.
Excellent, excellent. And you have a meetup that you started. I don't know if it was like a couple months ago or if it was before that. That's on Thursdays. Do you want to say a thing or two about that?
Sure. So we have a networking meetup on Thursdays at noon. Yeah, I mean, you can follow me, and I usually post it to register for it.
Excellent, excellent, good stuff. So, as far as the REI Rocks review, I don't know if you've ever seen one of these before. Usually, what we do is we take recordings from previous summits. This is Jason. Is this the eighth one or the ninth one? Or I know we started in the
Uh,
beginning of 2020.
the eighth summit, yes. We started in March of 2020. We've been doing two a year. So this is number 8 for us.
Yeah, it's fantastic because these virtual events, during COVID, they got more popular. Personally, I love the idea of being able to fit more in your day than just the conference. There's definitely a role for that, but I know that you guys, especially with Anson, I don't know how one if you want to get into that a little bit, but your special needs son, I'm sure he has to be taken care of. Somebody has to be there all the time, and I imagine that hotels are a little bit difficult for him. Do you like? I at least as far as why I wanted to get involved and support the REI Rock Summit, that's very high on my list. It's just because you can't be, plane hopping constantly like a lot of the people you see in this sector. But do you want to say a thing or two about that, or?
Yeah, that's why Angel's in Houston and not everybody. One, the kids have school, but two, Anson doesn't do well. um, we haven't actually flown with him. I don't think he would do well with flying because he wouldn't understand like cabin pressure and stuff like that. He would just know something's wrong. But my son is autistic. He's 13 years old, but mentally he's maybe 2 or 3. And so I know flying with a 2 or 3 year old can be difficult at times. Uh, Compound that with a big, strong kid at 13, but mentally too. So definitely hard. Definitely can't keep him alone by himself like you can normal 13-year-olds. Um, so we have to have like 24-hour care with him. We either have to find someone who's willing to do it, or usually what we do is Angel goes to the conferences and I stay home. So
And you make a terrific team for that because when your nose is in the numbers and you don't have a bunch of people pestering you, that's when you really shine with all your talents. But as far as let's talk about the beginnings of this summit. I keep on telling people my favorite thing about this summit is because I came from education and I came from the coaching industry as well. My background is in CRMs and online funnels. So my way into real estate was through building funnels for real estate coaches. And one thing that bugged me as I was learning real estate, it's people who try to put an air of mystery in real estate, like, oh, there are these secrets that, like only a handful of people know, and or, like deals aren't working out except for these people who have this secret sauce. And I don't think that's really representing things properly. So that's my favorite thing about the REI Rocks review and the summits is that Angel gets guests who are out there doing these things, and they're not doing millions a year in coaching and trying to say it's like, oh well, yeah, the reason why we aren't talking about that subject is because you need to upgrade to the 5-figure program or something like that. And it seems disingenuous to me. So that's what excites me about it. But Jason, maybe you can say a thing or two about what gave Angel that inspiration to start these summits.
so we did join a mentorship program, and right off the bat, um, and this is different than any other mentorship program that I've seen, is he says start a thought leadership platform. So we created the Academy Presents, and then he's like, just share everything you know, do a podcast, get guests, do whatever, and get going. So originally we were going to start off with like doing webinars periodically, but then it morphed into a summit. It was going to be a 1-day summit, and Angel has been talking to people who have been doing this in the past, and they said that the difference between a 1-day and a 3-day is just coordinating people. And so that's what kicked it off as a 3-day summit. So now we have a 3-day summit twice a year, and we have a podcast. Or I say we, Angel has the summits and the podcast. I'm just here for moral support and keep the show
Yeah,
running in the background, but
yeah,
she's the
you're
one
just
who does it.
right. You're just a pretty face, basically, is what you're trying to say. So
Well, I'm not.
it's
I'm trying not to be the pretty face. She's the pretty face. She's the one who's usually out in front of everybody, and I'm in the background, just making
yeah,
sure everything's running smoothly as I can. So
You're the guy behind the
yeah.
curtain pulling the levers.
yeah,
The
and
the
keeping the
wizard
kids
of
quiet and
So the wizard of underwriting, I guess, rather than Oz. I guess that's because if you don't know, that's Jason's forte. He coaches people with their commercial underwriting. It's a fantastic service that he offers there. But that's fantastic. And then as far as I think I want to get into why thought leadership is so important and why if you join the summits, you're going to be around people that will help you get on your feet in that way for sure. And I think the problem comes down to just how social media works. The fact is, it's a screen, like it's just a page, and it's got different people's posts on it. And it's tough being so extroverted as to realize this, but the nature of the beast is if somebody's not looking at your post, they're looking at somebody else's post. and they're thinking of that person and not you. So it really rewards getting stuff out there, even when you are just getting your sea legs, so to speak, on this subject. But on that subject, Matt, I guess we'll start off with you. Where were you in your real estate journey when you first attended an REI Rocks Summit?
Oh wow. Where was I? I think that was maybe almost a year ago.
Mhm.
And I had already purchased or invested as a passive investor in a handful of properties. I had just become a GP in a property in Ohio, which was it still is it's a fun experience. Right now, I'm part of the asset management team, and that's one of my strengths is asset management, property management, because I've been doing it for so long. And at that point, I think I was starting to look at other multifamily properties to invest in.
All right. All right. Excellent. Excellent. And then I have four different things here that I think people will generally take from attending a summit. They are inspiration, motivation, strategy, and networking. So when you think of your experience with the REI Rocks Summit, which ones do you think it moved the needle for the most?
Well, inspiration and motivation for sure. I mean, you guys have done some great stuff and really are enthusiastic about all the properties that you're doing and the guests that you have, and it's really wonderful to meet these people online and see what they're really about. And you get a full hour or so listening to them in their journey and what their strengths and weaknesses are and what motivates them and drives them. So it's
Mhm.
good.
And the surprises are just nonstop, right? And I think that's true of all of us. I think it was it Frank that was saying they watched an interview with you, Matt, and they just there was a side of you that they just didn't even know about. Like I can't remember who it was. Not that important, but right, you know what I mean, right? It's amazing what comes out of people as far as their backgrounds, where it's just like you've known this person for a year, a couple years, 3 years, whatever,
Yeah.
and it's real game changers, right?
Yeah. There's always
Excellent,
something new
excellent.
to learn about people.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So let's turn over to Arturo then. So where were you in your real estate journey when you first attended an REI Rock Summit?
I was still fairly new to multifamily. I think it was also a year ago when I first attended the REI Rock Summit, and
Mhm.
I think something that Jason said earlier that his mentor said, share everything that you know. And honestly, that's probably one. I'm glad that if anyone was to do this, it's Jason and Angel, because that's what they do. And I mean, you pick up so much. And yes, there's inspiration, there is networking, and a lot of motivation too, just because of all the things that you are able to pick up from what you learn in the REI Rock Summits. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I was still fairly new to the space when I first joined.
Excellent, excellent. So that same question again, then those four different parts: inspiration, motivation, strategy, and networking. So when you think of the REI Rock Summit, which ones of those words do you think really pop out as describers?
Ooh, I think where we were in our path, I think strategy was a pretty big one. Just trying to figure out our path and kind of learning from everyone that has the more experience than we do. And some of the inspiration as well. It was motivational to be there and listening to everyone speak.
Excellent, excellent. So I have to tell everybody in the audience once again to do a reset, as they say in radio, letting you know what's going on. This is the REI Rocks review, but we're having a special because the summit, the REI Rocks Fall Summit 2023, it's starting next Wednesday. And if I put the triangles up on the screen one more time, then you can see there's a QR code and an address that you can go to. There is a free tier of this. Even though that doesn't exactly pay the bills, there's a great reason for that. But let's talk about that for a second, shall we? So Jason, I know I've said a few times before about how I at first when I heard that there was a free tier, I'm like, but why? And now I've totally converted. I think it's genius what Angel does. I know it has a lot to do with her teaching background, though. So can you say a thing or two about that, Jason?
Well, yeah, she has been a teacher forever, some form or fashion. She's taught everything from kindergarten up through eighth grade. She's taught high school economics. She's taught college, so she is an educator at heart, and so she has a lot of educator friends who want to get into the space but don't have as much disposable income to throw at a course or at a mentorship or something. And so what she wants to do is open it up to everybody. So we do have a free tier. It is limited versus what the paid tier offers, but we do have a free tier where you can come in during the days of the summit. You can watch the content. You cannot participate in any of the live events, so that is one of the perks of upgrading. So you get the upgraded ones get to participate in master classes, panel discussions. I think she's doing roundtable discussions as well. What else is there? Networking events. So none of the free tier get to do that, but it's, I guess, more of also of a teaser saying, hey, this is what we offer, which is a whole hell of a lot, but we offer a whole lot more if you want to actually play all out. So
Right, and I've been digging into those videos, and I've seen even just the free tier content. If you put it on a playlist, you started at the first one, and you just left it going where they're all attached. I don't think we have the technology to do that, but that's besides the point. If you had that in an entire playlist, it would run over 24 hours of content because it's there are some of them are an hour, some of them are closer to 45 minutes. There's over 30 of them, so that's 24 hours of content. That's a lot of learning and a lot of effort. I think it's really amazing that she does that. But the paid tier is much better. We'll talk about that in a second. But of course, to keep our lights on, I gotta remind you that this space could be yours. Do you want some more eyeballs of syndicators, people in commercial real estate, or other forms of real estate and investment? Well, just go ahead and reach out and we can plug what you offer on the REI Rocks review. But I want to turn around to Arturo because I know your educational background, and I think one of the nicest things that's ever been said about the VIP subscription was said by you. And it was basically comparing the value that you get from having access to these years of summits. You can review all of the things that are in there. So what's your take as far as being able to access all of that stuff and use it as a learning resource, Arturo?
Yeah, I mean, the what really caught me the most was how in depth the conversations will go, and it's not like so in depth where I'm like lost and confused. It's just really explaining things and getting a better understanding. I mean, it's that was my biggest impression from the REI Rock Summit and being able to access them, be able to replay them on my own time, either while I'm at work or whatever it is that I'm doing. I can just play them on my phone. Um, but yeah, I think just the in depth of knowledge that you get from it is very impressive.
I love that. I love that. So one thing that we always do on the REI Rocks review when we are going through these different summit presentations or interviews or roundtables, panel discussions, whatever they are, we tend to watch them at 1.5 times speed. And now, Arturo, when you are getting that, when you're going through those different videos, do you play with the speed controls? Do you use audio only? Like do you just listen and just let it play in the background, or are you sitting there watching the whole time? How do you like to consume that pre-recorded content?
I usually play a little bit faster as well. And if there's something that I hear that like kind of sparked an interest, I'll just replay it at a slower pace and then continue back on like a faster. If there's just something that I really want to engrave, I tend to rewatch and play it slower.
Excellent, excellent. So, Matt, have you? I know that you have access to all the previous summits, and so when you watch that, do you tend to listen rather than watch? Do you play with the playback speed? How do you like to consume that sort of thing?
Yes, I play it back at either 1 3/4 speed or around that, and it just requires me to focus intently. It doesn't sort of hones in my focus, and I can take notes and I can go stop and go back and if I did miss something. And I still have stuff to listen to that I want to re-listen to from the last summit.
Excellent.
That's the good thing about the VIP or the subscription is you can go back and re-listen to stuff. On the free tier, I mean, you can go back and re-listen to it, but only during those 3 days that the event is. So it's hard to get through all the content and go back and listen to it again. So
Definitely. And Jason, you got the PhD at the end of your name, and I know it's in chemical engineering, which it's not the easiest subject out there by any stretch. So I'm sure a bunch of people in the audience are like, "Well, sure, I understand what Dan's saying when you say that if it's important to watch it at 1 time speed, it's automatically twice as important if you're watching it at 2 times speed." But I'm the first one to admit it takes time. You got to get used to it. I didn't just immediately go boom 2 times and I had no problems. But you're also, 2 times generally when you're consuming content, unless they're particularly slow, then sometimes you'll crank it up even further, right? But if we're going to extend that olive branch to people, what are your thoughts, Jason, about consuming at higher speeds?
So when I'm listening to audiobooks in the car by myself, I'll listen to them at 1.5 to 2 times. If I have my kids or Angel in the car, I'm listening to it at one. Actually, I bumped it up. It's 1.25 speed, but I just bumped it up to like 1.4. So, I mean, you have to slowly get there. Nobody noticed when I bumped it up to 1.4, so I might be able to bump it up again. But if you just gradually increase over time, then I mean, I'm watching YouTube videos at 2.5, 3 times speed and listen to stuff if I'm sitting at my desk listening to it at 2.5 speed, but it just takes time to get up there. And I would start off at 1.25 to 1.5 and then slowly go up from there.
I love it. So one of the reasons
I
why
want
we
to say
ended up
that the downside of
Go
that
for it.
is that when you're not listening to these videos at 1.5, 2 times speed, when you're talking live in person, you just hope that they're going faster.
Yeah.
You can't speed up live conversations.
No.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah,
a lot
that's
of
a real
people would
challenge.
like to do that with me because I know I sound wittier when I'm at 3 times speed.
That's so funny. That's so funny. Actually, it's funny. My mentorship for commercial real estate, I consumed it at 2 times speed, and then I went to the live event, and it wasn't until I actually got to my chair in the back row where I'm like, oh no, am I going to be able to handle this guy at 1 time speed? And it's really funny, but the thing I want to emphasize though is that if you do have the VIP subscription, if you do go through that past content before Wednesday, then you can actually see some of the speakers and see their previous presentations, and you can prepare your questions to ask them live. And like honestly, like especially coming from the tech side of the coaching industry, I find that there are these people who are charging like $1,000 an hour for training, which like that just makes me go, it's like I'm always thinking about return on investment, and it's like, are you going to make more than $1,000 for that 1 hour with that particular person? And a lot of the times the answers are going to be no. A lot of people contend that you can learn just about anything from YouTube for free these days. But I think what the issue is there is you need a curator. You need somebody to say, hey, this is this is the wheat, this is the chaff, right? Like this is the good stuff, that's the stuff that's not really going to happen. And I think that's what you got here. But like, what other opportunity do you have for a low price to access the people who are exactly where you want to be? I think it's a fantastic thing. Jason?
So definitely, there's a lot of information on YouTube. You don't, like you said, you have to separate the wheat from the chaff. What's BS, what's legit, and a lot of times you're not going to know. So if you find somebody who's been doing it, has been doing it, currently doing it, something that you want to do, and they're willing to talk to you about it, learn from them. So
Hmm.
$1,000 an hour ROI, sometimes they'll pay off, but if you're doing something like that, it's going to be more over the lifetime, unless it's just like teaching you how to quickly get like $2,000 after spending 1,000. So you get some return on your investment, but you're never going to really find anything like that, especially with education, because I mean, you can spend $10,000, you can learn everything. If you don't do anything, you're not going to get any return. And so that's another big thing that we push is, yeah, we give you education, but we also tell you how to get started and do it and get off your ass. So
Hmm. Hmm. I love it. I love it. And I don't want everybody thinking that we're just, what do you want to call it? Filthy capitalists and everything is sell, 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 all that kind of stuff. Again, we have the free tier at the REI Rocks Virtual Summit. You can scan this QR code. You can go to that address right there and you can access things for free. But I really want to emphasize that the secret sauce of real estate is networking. It's knowing people and having that exposure, having that experience, like knowing what the going rate is for things. And the best place for that, I'd have to say, is Marvelous Mondays, which is completely free. Even on this coming Monday, which is just 2 days before the summit starts, you can scan that code to register for it. But that's a great opportunity to meet all sorts of syndicators and things like that. So let's talk about Marvelous Mondays a little bit. Who wants to start off with their Marvelous Monday story? Jason, Matt, Arturo?
I can go for it.
Go for it.
Yeah, again, our very, very first one, I think we got a lot of, we met a lot of people. I mean, you guys network a lot. But another great thing is that it goes past that hour into the after party, and that's where things become even more amazing. I think people start talking a lot more into different situations. And again, it's an incredible networking space, surrounded by people who are already in the space as well, that you get to just communicate with and get to meet.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
yeah, we've
Excellent.
been told that our after parties are actually like masterminds. And so people would pay like $1,000 to sit in on one of those after parties sometimes. But the thing with the after parties is we don't know which directions it's going until we get there. And so we
Right.
can't say, all right, in this after party, we're going to talk about whatever. So, I mean,
Yep.
but
Yep. Go
the
ahead.
Marvelous Monday and the after parties are all free if you just click on the link that just popped up earlier. So
Right.
there's no excuse not to be there.
Yeah, really, really. And go ahead, Matt. You unmuted?
No.
Sound like
No, I would
oh, okay.
agree with what Arturo was saying. If you have time to stick around for the after party, there's just so many nuggets um, that you can come away with, and you get to know these people even better.
Right. And I think one of the bigger ones that comes out makes it a little bit more unique is a healthy dose of skepticism. So I could tell you from a couple different mentorship programs that are out there. I don't think that I think what they're doing is they're giving some numbers just to make sure that they can cover their promise of like, hey, if you do this, then you can scratch together a living for yourself. but in practice, like they're teaching you to be a little bit greedy, or they're teaching you approaches that don't really work. One criticism of a mentorship program that I was in was it's what's called a direct to seller approach, which means you're actually knocking on doors and saying like, "Hey, you want to sell me your building?" That sort of approach. And I heard one of the other people in that cohort say it's like, so once upon a time, like if you just imagine a place, okay, and then there's a finite number of apartment complexes that are in there. If you're interacting with them, with the owners of these different buildings, you're going to run into one particular problem again and again, which is that there are these other people, and they're called brokers. And their job is to bug the owners as frequently as possible, saying like, "Hey, why don't you put this property up for sale?" And that's who you're competing with directly. You're trying to buy it for yourself, but like it's entirely possible that the owner went to high school with the broker, and they're hitting them up, once every couple weeks or something like that. It's like hot, hot, hot. Looking to sell that property of yours? Come on, sell, sell, sell. Do it, do it, do it. And it's tough to get through with that. And then there are other programs where they say, hey, do your first deal or whatever, and make sure you get 5%. And when you hear that the first time, you're like, okay, well, that sounds reasonable enough. But if you have no experience and you have very little ability to, like get your claws in, 5% is pretty greedy as far as the going rate for things. So that's what's going through my head as far as when you're looking out for other programs, what the value is of going to Marvelous Mondays or hopping into the live side of these summits. I think that's the sort of stuff that you get out of it, that it's tough to get it out of any other program, because if you're sitting there learning that 5% is the going rate, like who's going to pipe up and say it's like, not in the deals that I'm seeing that pencils in, they're not going to take in some newbie for that, so does anybody have any thoughts or similar experiences that brings up, or is that just me
Well,
and
I
my
think
own
I think you're
negativity?
sort of touching on the law of the first deal, essentially, which is there's a barrier at which point brokers will start to take you seriously and know that you can close and operate and proceed.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Otherwise,
So
it's
you're
hard,
talking
hard
kind of
to
like the chicken, yeah, like the chicken and the egg, or the, you
kind of.
know, yeah, you have to have experience before somebody will give you a job, but you have to have a job before you have an experience. It's, you know, one of those
Yeah,
impossible things. Yeah,
yeah, there is
yeah.
that. Yeah. I
Hmm.
mean,
So,
again, it's
well, it
harder to
sounds like
get
you have.
you want to get your foot in the door as well with these brokers, because they do not like when you're competing with them, and they're gonna 9 times out of 10 they're gonna beat you anyway because they do this for a living. I think it's great if you can really, really hustle and talk to sellers, and you can, you know, but it's a lot of work, a lot of legwork to actually get there.
Hmm.
So I actually use brokers. I'm like, if I'm looking at a property, I'll say, "Hey, can you go track down the owner and see if they'll do something?" Because if they can do it, which is what like Matt said, this is what they do for a living. They do this day in, day out. One, they're good at it. Two, they have the time to do it. So they already have two legs up on me, who's trying to reach out to the owner, and they have the reputation of selling properties. Whereas if I try to approach a seller and like, "Hey, can I buy your apartment complex?" And like, "Who the hell are you? Why are you going to buy it?" So I'm using the relationships with brokers to find out information on properties, see if the sellers are willing to sell, stuff like that. So
Hmm.
that's
Yep.
my philosophy, and it gets you in good graces with the brokers, and so you can get more deals done through them as well.
Hmm. Makes lots of sense. Makes a lot of sense.
I
So
mean,
you
yeah,
are
they
watching. Oh, sorry.
as I
Go
I
ahead,
was going to
Jason.
say, yeah, they take a little piece out of it, but I mean that piece is well deserved if they do their job well. So I'm not looking
Right.
to shortchange anybody.
Yeah,
if
I
they can do their
completely
job. So
I completely agree. I think that your expectations have to be in line, though, when you're getting into this business, and it's just like, like, if you're not gonna be beating all these different brokers who've known everybody for years, and it's of course the main reason why you'd even do a direct to seller approach is to find those steep discounts to basically buy at cheaper values. But I was about to say, you are watching the REI Rocks review, and we are here every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. In general, we are reviewing the summit presentations, like the free summit that we have. At least there's a free tier of the summit that we have coming up on Wednesday, the 20th. You can scan the code in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen with your phone and register, or you can visit theacademypresents.com or theacademypresents.com/attend. They both achieve the same end, but that's what we're up to. We're here every Friday to review this content and talk about the different things that are on our minds in this industry, and it's some fantastic stuff. So I'm not sure what else you guys really have that you want to share. I think we'd be remiss if we don't mention the ironclad mastery and model uh, that you have on offer here. So Jason, I'm going to pull this up, and so while we see your smiling face, do you want to say a thing or two about that?
so I do coach underwriting, and we use our proprietary model that we've developed in house. We've gotten a lot of models out there when I was helping people with their underwriting. And so I took all the good bits and pieces that I liked, fixed all the things that were broken, and then slapped it into my model. And now I have one of the most robust models out there that I've seen. um, and and what I do is I teach you how to find the information you need, create the relationships you need. Real estate is all about relationships. You can't do it on your own. So you need relationships with your insurance, with your brokers, with your lenders, everybody. And then from there, I teach you how to put it into a model so that you can do it efficiently, so that you can start getting LOIs out in a timely manner. So, um, one thing I've had clients come up to me is like, "Hey, I have an LOI out. Can you run my numbers and make sure I'm not getting in over my head?" It's like, well, you probably should have done this before you submitted an LOI, but I'll check it out anyway. So, if you know how to run your numbers confidently, certain with certainty and clarity, then you will have more confidence in your LOIs, and you'll be able to you know that if you do get a deal, it'll work out for you. So
Right,
that's what I
right,
teach my
exactly.
students.
And a huge part of that has to do with the fact that we don't have a crystal ball to see the future and exactly what will end up happening. So you have to mitigate risks, you have to quantify risks, and you have to, basically see if they fit within a certain band uh, to make sure that your investors are on the right side of the deals. We got Sean Griffith in the chat here. I'm really glad that he's as excited as I am about the summit coming up, and of course he's also a regular at Marvelous Mondays. That's some fantastic stuff. So we normally wrap up at quarter two, and so we have enough time to give some final words or encouragement or anything else that's going on. I guess we can also mention how to reach out to everybody, because this is this live stream. It's on Facebook, it's on YouTube, it's on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is by far the best way to get a hold of me. Matt, let's start with you. If people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to pull that off?
It's pretty simple. I'm on LinkedIn as well. I'm the only Matt Kontoff there, so that's easy. And my email is matt@redwingcap.com. And I would love to talk to folks about investing overseas and trying to educate folks about what that's all about as compared to investing locally.
Hmm. Excellent, excellent. I hear Bali's nice this time of year. I imagine it's
Yes,
a
it
bit on the
is.
hot side. Yeah, yeah. What's a typical
Is
temperature in Bali?
Fahrenheit or Celsius? No,
Hmm,
don't ask me to
potato,
convert.
potato.
Probably like 80s, 90s nowadays. But the rainy season starts around November, and goes for a couple
Hmm.
months.
Gotcha, gotcha. Jason, it sounded like you were about to chime in.
I was going to ask, is there ever a time when Bali's not nice? But
Rainy
you said the
season.
rainy season.
Yeah,
Well, some people love rain,
they
right?
do.
You know,
It
if you,
rains all the
yeah,
time, and it's so our property is in a bit of a rainforest there, so
yeah.
very lush.
So you can have some Guns N' Roses, "Welcome to the Jungle" playing all day.
That's our
That would get
theme
pretty
song.
annoying pretty fast. Yeah, yeah. Nice,
It's
nice,
blaring over the
excellent.
compound. Yeah, no.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. So Arturo, you got your QR code on your screen. That's probably
Yep.
the best way to reach out. But what are the best ways to reach out? Like include like social media channels, anything like that. How should people reach out?
Yeah, I'm also on LinkedIn, either Facebook or Instagram as well. Just by my name, Arturo Ayala. And my email is arturo at ramultifamily.com.
Excellent,
And then I guess
excellent,
a
excellent.
last REI promo. um, I think the live event is great. That's where you can also ask your specific questions. I know when we first joined it, that's where we were able to ask. I mean, the questions that we had when we were first starting out, and I guess other people too that were experienced are like, oh, that's something new because you get all these different perspectives from people chiming in. So I think that's a great place to be.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And when you get more experience, I think that's one of the biggest risks you have is that you're going to forget how some things are just complete enigmas, but you've known the answer for so long, you just completely forget that that was ever a problem finding out that information. So it's so refreshing to be in that kind of a group. And don't think for one second that we don't have people in the attendees that have a ton of experience, because we absolutely do have people with a ton of experience, enormous portfolios, and they're still just joining to get their finger on the pulse of what everybody else is thinking, what's really going on, make new connections, and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's the biggest failure of live events in general is when they don't give attendees the opportunity to network. Networking is a big part of the event. I've seen the schedule for this summit, and there are networking opportunities. There's several of them throughout the 3 days. But Jason, we got a couple minutes left. What else do you have to say before we give everybody back the rest of their day?
So one thing about asking questions is I know a lot of people are kind of hesitant to. And the one good thing that Angel has been able to do, especially with this platform, is if you have the question, she doesn't make you feel stupid or anything about asking it, because 9 times out of 10, if you have that question, somebody else does, and they're also too afraid to ask. So I mean, she knows how to make you feel comfortable so that you can ask the questions, you can get the information you want, and you come out feeling better about yourself and not feeling like I can't believe I asked that question type thing. So show up to the live events, ask the questions. It'll be a good time. Um, Basically, can't wait. It's next week.
Right, right. Yeah, it's going to be really exciting. And the other thing too is commercial real estate. It's a team sport, and nobody's going to pretend that they know it all. Especially Angel. You know, she's got her lane, and she exceeds. Like she's fantastic in that role. And but as far as like underwriting goes, it's like give it to the underwriter. And so yeah, there are no stupid questions. Uh, be prepared for that. Also, it's great that adults tend to make the choice to get into commercial real estate. So we tend to be, beginner mind, much more open to other people who are making the jump like we already have. But that's all I got for you today. This is the REI Rocks review. Make sure that you join us at the REI Rocks Summit next Wednesday. Make sure you get that link and get registered on there. It's lots of fantastic content available for you. But thanks a lot for watching today. Matt, thanks for joining me. Arturo, thanks for joining me. Jason, always a pleasure. That's all I got. Thanks,
See you, everybody.
See ya.
See you at the summit.